We are live! Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Show Must Go On line. Today's guests are the leadership team of SheNYC Arts. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
Yay! Well, let's go around and have everyone introduce yourself and your title.
Hi, I'm Eden Perlov. I'm the Director of Development.
Hi, I'm Danielle DeMatteo. I'm the founder and artistic director.
Hi, I'm Brenna Kilpatrick. I'm the managing director.
Yay! So fun. I always think it's a good idea from the start for everyone to just kind of have an idea of who we're talking with here. And, you know, it's so interesting as the year has gone by with the pandemic and COVID, and we just had Women's Day on Broadway, and I'm especially reflective right now because for anyone watching who might not know, SheNYC Arts really gave me this push in 2019 when I was just moving back to the city and I didn't really know where I was going to go. And I met y'all at the Women's Day on Broadway and ended up chatting about the future. And I became the photographer with the festival. Like, can you talk about your experience with Women's Day on Broadway and Women of Broadway as a whole?
Yeah, so I actually used to work at Disney Theatrical, and I helped manage Women's Day on Broadway every year from its first year. I left Disney in December, so this was actually the first year that I didn't really have a part in Women's Day on Broadway, but one of our programs, the Broadway Sinfonietta, performed this year. So yeah, I actually have never watched a full Women's Day on Broadway from beginning to end because I've always been running around backstage. Especially last year, we had Hillary Clinton come in, which was so cool. That was just absolutely wild. And so, yeah, it's an awesome event. It sort of sprung out of when we were opening Frozen on Broadway. And thinking about how in the aftermath of the Women's March and the beginning of Trump and blah, 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 how we had this musical that was about women and sisterhood and had a writing team that was mostly women. We wanted to celebrate that. So the first year of Women's Day on Broadway was born and people seemed to like it a lot. So then we were locked in, had to keep doing it every year.
Yeah, that was so much fun. And it was really cool to see such a diverse group of women talking about their experiences and also having these like very open and honest conversations, which I don't think we always get. And being women, female identifying people in the profession, there are a lot of things that maybe we don't know that we can do or we can take those extra steps. And that was probably the best part for me. Ooh, did anyone else hear that fun?
I had a motorcycle that drives by at 5 every day.
Oh, right on time. Perfect. So does anyone want to speak to, we've got Kristen saying, hooray, SheNYC.
Yay! Yeah. Oh my God, Kristen! She's been she was an intern of ours 3 years ago, and then we brought her back the next year as a PA. We love you, Kristen. Hi, how are you?
Yay! Fabulous. I love it. It's all in the family here. So talk about some of those experiences within SheNYC that really goes to show how diverse it is in every aspect of the word and name and those type of opportunities that people who might not think that they could have their show performed or anything like that it's limitless.
Yeah, I'm always surprised every year at like the wide breadth of subject matter that we have. And we have a completely blind script submissions process. We take all names and identification information off of the scripts before we read them. And we really just try to choose the best shows based on merit. And every year, the shows that come to the top are always about such a wide range of topics and about such a wide range of experiences. You might think that a women's theater festival, all the shows will be about similar topics, similar themes, but it's really not the case. We've had so many totally different types of stories and styles and genres and everything. And the other thing about women too is I think women tend to care about marginalized communities a little bit more. So every year we also have a wide range of shows about different communities of all races and ethnic backgrounds and religions, shows that are about disabilities or illnesses or inclusive of those things, and include things like ASL interpretation and blind-friendly performances. Yeah, you remember from Dancing Girl, I remember you saw that one, that had it had ASL worked into it. So it wasn't just an interpreter sitting on the side, it was ASL actually a part of the movement, a part of the action on stage. So I'm always just so impressed. At this point, we've been doing it for 5 years, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but every year I'm always impressed by it.
And also to just add on to that, and you touched on this a little, Shoshana, that just getting your foot in the door is really hard, in particular for women and people of color. And I'm sure as people are watching, if you work in the arts, there's an understanding that you're freelancing for a lot of the time, and it takes a lot of time. You need a second job. It's really difficult. And so having the ability of being able to send in a script without an agent, without any needing to know anyone, just finding our website or finding our link online and being able to submit is automatically a first step. And we also pay for all the administrative stuff, and we pay for the theater. So that's also a huge barrier that a lot of people can't do, because producing your own show is expensive and it's really hard. So just being able to eliminate those barriers gives people of kind of every background at least a fighting chance to be able to get their work seen. And we also have professionals come and see the shows, so they then have the chance to possibly have their work produced in the future. So we try from kind of step one all the way through the end of the production to get people's work seen by important people in the industry.
And I'll add to that too, that I truly believe, because we've taken out all those barriers to entry, we get the best shows in New York City every year. Obviously, I am hugely biased, but my favorite shows that I see every year are the ones at SheNYC. And it's gotten to the point where I'm like, I sit through a Broadway show and I'm like, I'm kind of bored. Because I think we're just, without any of those barriers, we're able to just get raw talent, just pure good writing.
And passion projects too, like things that people always wanted to be able to do and never had the chance to do it. And now they have a platform, which is so cool. And it feels like low stakes, like, let's just get this thing up on its feet and see if it has legs, or like just to take it to the next step is really cool to see. And people have a great time doing it too.
Wow, I love this. Yes, yes, yes. And it was fabulous. You mentioned that I saw Dancing Girl, and I talk about that show so often. It's in the cover photo of today's interview. There are 2 photos from it, because it was really cool. As a photographer, I went to all of the different rehearsal spaces, but then I also saw tech and some of the actual performances in that space. And it was really cool seeing that whole performance evolve, and just this yes and attitude from everyone, from the writers, directors, the performers, lighting, that. It really felt so inclusive that it was like the best decision won, or the best suggestion won out, that it didn't have this hierarchy. I like what you're saying about the low stakes. And it also felt very personal, especially in this type of theater space that, Danielle, I know when you're saying a Broadway show, it can feel so big, right? And especially if you have the cheap seats, which I've had a lot in my life, because it can be very expensive. I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. I love a Broadway show. I love an off-Broadway show. That's part of even my name, Broadway show. But there's something so cool about seeing these performers feet away, inches away, and really getting this personal experience that you can see their eyes. You can see what they're actually acting. Does anyone else want to jump in about just how personal it feels?
Yeah, I mean, I think I got to give a huge shout out to the Connolly Theater, which is where we are in New York every year. It is just the most amazing space. It's probably my favorite building in all of New York City at this point, because we've spent so many hours there. But it gives you the large stage and lots of playing space that a really big off-Broadway house would give you. But the seating arrangement is so intimate. It's if for anyone who hasn't been in there, it has sort of a small floor with risers on it, and the risers are pretty steep. So even if you're sitting in the back, you still feel like you're a front row audience member. And then there's also a gorgeous balcony that loops around the top. And so you're only feet away from the performers, and it's just fabulous. And I'll give a shout out to our LA theater, which is the Zephyr Theater in Hollywood, which has the same kind of feel. You're really right there in front of the performers, and they have seating on 3 sides there, so you really get to sort of surround the stage. So yeah, you don't get that in a Broadway theater.
I'll also say for Dancing Girl specifically, the sort of intimate setting for it was even more important because the show was done in both just spoken English and ASL simultaneously. So it was really important that for our audience, they were able to see everything that was going on and that kind of made it. And I'm sure, Shoshana, you probably felt this. Like, I'm not sure if you had, there's special seating specifically for people who speak in ASL so that they can see the whole stage. And so I know Danielle and I talked about the experience of the ASL speaking audience understanding jokes that were kind of meant for them in a specific way versus jokes that were maybe more for the English speaking audience and seeing their reactions. And it just created, because it was such a small, it's a, like you said, an intimate setting, you kind of could get a very different vibe than you would in a giant theater that everybody sort of spread out and kind of in different environments.
Yeah, there'd be a joke in ASL and only one part of the audience would laugh. It was really lovely.
Yeah, and that also really inspired me. I've taken some courses back in the day, but I really want to get back into learning ASL again because it's so fascinating and it's so important. Like, I love learning languages, and why not do one that really it's special and unique and also very inclusive. Slimbo! We have our special co-star here. Slimbo says hi. Yes, so for everyone watching at home, you will hear a dog running in and out, possibly barking, because we are doing this at home, quarantining. And yes, I'm seeing Noah saying, "Hooray, inclusive theater!" Yes, yes.
The other thing about the ASL is I now feel strongly that all theater professionals should learn it because you can communicate backstage with each other silently. You don't have to worry about whispering or your mic being on. So the actors who understood ASL would literally be communicating with each other from the wings on opposite sides of the stage, talking to each other because all they needed to do was see each other's hands.
I'll also do a plug for the Sign Language Center because after Dancing Girl, started learning ASL because I was like, we're involved in this community and they're great. So highly recommend them. And they work with a lot of actors. So they are definitely the place to go.
Yeah, I've also had the Broadway Signed team on my series and I love them. I love what they're doing. And, any way that we can be more inclusive and also like build our skill sets, like you're saying, that's a win-win. It's great. So we will get more into the ever-growing aspects of SheNYC Arts, but I also want to get on that personal level. So let's go around and have everyone share your origin story. What got you into theater? Do you have like a favorite first memory? And we're going to start with Brenna this time and then go around.
Ooh, switching the order. I like it. So for me, I was never a theater actress or performer. I've always loved theater. It's something that I've always felt very passionate about. Like when I was younger, my parents always just like took me to New York. We'd always see a Broadway show and, there was nothing like that in my mind. So when I went to college, I tried to find ways to incorporate Broadway and theater into my education. And eventually when I graduated, I worked at Joe Roth Advertising and worked in theatrical advertising and was able to kind of like get the other side of it, of the business side, but also still working with some phenomenal artists and seeing these like really cool shows come to life from scratch, which was really awesome and pretty cool to to start off as that little kid and then be like, hey, I'm kind of in this world and seeing how it works. And then I met Danielle and she was like, hey, I want to do this theater thing. You want to come along and we'll make it happen? I was like, sure. And here we are 5 years later. So it's just one thing to another and keep on going.
Love it. All right, Danielle, take it away.
Wow. Yeah. Origin story. I started out as a dancer, actually, and got kind of dragged into the musical theater world, like against my will, by other people that I danced with. You know, I was doing a lot of like ballet, serious dance stuff, and everybody else was like, "Come do this fun thing," and I was like, "Okay." Yeah, I absolutely hated it. I was really, really shy as a kid, so I like did not want to be there at all. I also happened to play piano. So while I was in the musical theater world, I got, you know, kind of stuck there because everybody always needs their friend who's a pianist. So yeah, I ended up then going to college via a weird series of events for musical theater. Graduated and started working at 2 Jamison theaters right after I graduated. I learned, to me, that was like my grad school experience. I just learned so much working there. And then, yeah, I guess it was right after I left 2 Jamison that I said to Brenna, hey, we should do this thing. Along with our first production manager, Katie Cabot, who I knew. Oh, here's my animal now. Okay, cat. Okay, here we go. While I was in college, my college roommate and I wrote a musical together, and found out we were kind of good at it, really liked it. And we won a bunch of awards for it and ended up running in Boston, in Chicago, and then had an off-Broadway run in New York. And throughout that experience is when I learned that the industry has a really different set of standards for women. And it was very annoying. So I decided I wanted to do something to fix it. And that's where the idea for SheNYC came from. So I gathered Brenna and a bunch of other women that I was working with at the time. We figured out that we wanted to do a festival setting because that seemed like, it seemed like there was a gap for an opportunity for women to be able to present their works in full. So not shortcuts, not stage readings, not concerts, but actually just do a full production on a stage. So that's why we decided to do a festival. That first year, we were really just trying it out. I don't think any of us expected it would turn into like a big thing. But it went super well. People liked it. We had lines out the door every day of people coming in to see shows. And so we decided to expand, make it bigger the second year, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger from there. So yeah, that's a very SparkNotes version of the whole origin story.
Yeah. So I originally was a singer many moons ago, and studied opera for a while. And then my teacher transitioned me to torch music. And I was like, I'm going to be this next big Broadway star. And then I got to college and realized I really liked stage management. I'm actually wearing my Year of the Stage Manager shirt. And so I was working in stage management off Broadway for several years. And I came to realize that the number one thing that was stopping a lot of the artists I was working with was that they didn't have funding and that they didn't have money to put on their productions. And so I didn't know development was a thing. And I just started fundraising for them on my own, or if they had Kickstarters, I was posting about it, or I really tried to just kind of push their stuff forward. And then I was like, what's sort of similar to stage management? Special events is sort of like that. And so I tried to slowly transition into special events, which in most nonprofits lives in development. And now I am full-time I was working in development at the Apollo. Now I'm working in development at New York Public Radio. And I just really love it. Honestly, it's the biggest thing for me has always been wanting to make sure that people are, one, I believe that everybody should be paid properly for their work. I think artists are often not given their due, and that there should be more funding, and finding ways to get that funding is really important to me. And also engaging people who are interested in it, who have the financial means, and being like, you like this thing, we need your support, let's work together and kind of let's jive and get this going. So that's how I'm now here. And I met Danielle, actually, we were organizers for the Women's March. And so we met that way. And Danielle was like, you're in theater, we need a show mentor. And so I started as a show mentor and then slowly progressed to doing development.
Phenomenal. It really goes to show that there are so many different entry points, and that if you want a career in the theater industry, that it's not just singing, acting, dancing, that there are so many behind the scenes aspects that can also make you feel just as fulfilled, if not more, because you're also helping other people on their journey. I want to talk, speaking of origin story, I am a huge comic book fan. Eden already saw this, but my jacket over here, let me get these locks away, has some superheroes. And that is similar to the jacket I wore when I was the MC of Noteworthy.
I was going to say, is it the same one? But no, you have two superhero blazers.
Love
I
it.
do indeed. Well, I love them because, you know, if you're just looking at it like this, it's a pink blazer, the other one's black. And so they're just like, oh, she's professional, she's a reporter. And then it's like, ha ha ha, this is for me. So let's talk about Noteworthy. I was just watching it again, and really just the phenomenal talent of these women songwriters and singer-songwriters in some aspects, and sometimes a lot of them brought in friends and people to sing alongside them. It was just like, what a phenomenal concert and fundraising. It kind of all ties together to, you know, you get this great concert, but also you're really helping the forward movement. So let's talk about that. Who wants to start?
Yes, we do the Noteworthy concert every year. We find usually 4 or 5 women composers. We don't intend to find singer-songwriters, but a lot of them just end up being singer-songwriters, which is also really cool. I think it's really, especially when you're a musical theater writer, it's usually other people singing your music for you. So it's really cool to have the Noteworthy concert where we can see the writers perform their own songs, which is usually a little different than how an actor would perform them. So yeah, we do it every year. Last year, oh my God, it was December 2019. It was December 2019. And that was the last time we did an in-person performance with SheNYC. Because then our next performance was, we have a program for high school girls called CreateHER, and our next performance was supposed to be their final showcase in May, and by then everything had shut down. So that night is magical for a number of reasons. That one in particular was in this awesome venue that we got through our some partners that we have at Donor Up, which is a really cool company. If you don't know them already, they make it super easy to donate to your favorite nonprofits. So you should check out Donor Up if you haven't heard of them. But they helped us facilitate the event, and they got this this event space in the basement of a Lululemon store.
17.
Yeah, called Hub 17. That's it, right? And it was just a really nice, like, coffee house sort of vibe. The place was packed. There were so many humans in one room, close to each other. If you remember what that feels like. And the songwriters we had were all absolutely incredible. It was an amazing group. And then Shoshana, of course, you were an amazing MC.
Thank you so much. It was such a fun event to go to. And it's always really cool when you film something as well and you get to look back and it's like, oh, that really was as phenomenal. Sometimes, you know, an in-person experience, it's so great because it's just, you're there, you're feeling the vibes. But when you watch it back, you're like, wow, these are really, really talented humans.
Yeah.
It was also exciting because there was a really diverse group of women, and they also, a lot of them did musicals that were about their origins and like where their backgrounds were. One in particular, Aya Aziz, hers was about being like an Arab American, and also, I'm forgetting their name. There was 2 really talented women who talked about their like Indian backgrounds. And like, it was really cool to also see how they incorporated modern music with the music of their backgrounds, which was something that I don't think we get to experience a lot.
Those Rini and Rianjali.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, those are great points. It really did feel like we were getting like an Epcot experience, but more personal, right? That we were getting around the world so many different so many different perspectives that, like we've been saying this whole time, sometimes on these bigger stages, it's harder to pick away from all of the personal aspects. And then, the thing I'm thinking closest to it would be the band's visit, right? That this like big production, but it's actually very small and intimate, and you kind of like lean in to see it. And the Noteworthy concert felt like that you're getting these like personal stories, these lovely productions, high value, and it's just like, I don't know, like you're saying, the room was packed. And it also goes to show that there's a need and a hunger for it, that it's not just like, oh, a couple of your friends came here. Like, no, people were like sharing couch space and standing in the back, and it was just, I know. Danielle, you're making me miss all these like in-person.
I just got chills. I had like goosebumps on my arm when you said that. Yeah, there were people sitting on the floor. There were people standing in the back. It was just it felt like such a communal experience.
Yes. Oh, I miss it. I miss it so much.
Hopefully soon. Hopefully this summer you'll be able to come into a theater and see a SheNYC show again.
Gosh, that would be fantastic. Everyone stay tuned. Let's hope this happens. Get your vaccination. Let's wear a mask, be safe. Yes. So let's talk beyond SheNYC. There's also SheLA and SheAtlanta. So let's talk about the expansion of that.
Yeah. We never meant to expand to so many different programs in different cities. It really was just us meeting a need. So the reason we expanded to LA is because after our second year, so after our second festival, we had gotten so many script submissions in from the West Coast that actually out of the 8 shows we did in New York, 3 of them had flown from LA to do the festival in New York. And I was talking to a group of them during tech in the theater. We were sitting in the lobby and I was like, why did you guys fly all the way here to do this? And they were like, there's not another opportunity like this anywhere else. And I was like, well, we should fix that. And one of them sort of said like, yeah, why don't you do a festival in LA? And I was like, haha. And then I remember I was talking to another group of LA writers a few days later and they were like, oh my God, you should do this in LA. And I was like, okay, all right, let's figure this out. So we worked with both that group of writers from LA and also just some personal contacts and friends that we have working in theater out in LA and set up a festival for the following year. So our third year we did 2 festivals, one in New York, one in LA. It was also later that year that we tacked on our educational program for high school students, and that came out of some of our New York staff members who were really passionate about education and getting younger girls involved. Hopefully with the goal of one day some of those CreateHER students graduating up and being writers in the festival or producers in the festival, which I think might happen this summer for the first time. Yeah, so that all happened. And then we were doing that for a year and we kept getting more script submissions from all over the world. Honestly, we get a lot from London. We get them from Saskatchewan, Canada. We've gotten them from Brazil. We've gotten them from Asia. It's pretty wild. And we've been getting a lot from Central America and the South as well. So Eden is actually from Atlanta originally. And so through Eden and some of her friends in Atlanta, we came up with this idea of why don't we do one in Atlanta where there's this sort of growing entertainment industry as well. And it was right around the time when they had instituted, I'm going to misspeak on this. It was some form of an abortion ban in Georgia. And so a lot of entertainment companies were pulling their production, their film and TV production out of Atlanta. And so what that meant actually is that a lot of people who live in Atlanta and work in entertainment were losing jobs. So while the point that they were making was important, it was taking away jobs from people in Atlanta. So we ended up connecting with some women down there that were thinking about ways that they could, get active in the theater community to stand up for women's rights and make opportunities for theater artists in Atlanta. And so Erica and Caitlin are our SheATL lead producers. So they started the festival in Atlanta. It was supposed to premiere in a theater last summer for the first time. Obviously, it couldn't be in a theater, so they did do it all digitally in their first year. So this summer, we're also hoping that it'll be our first time in a theater in Atlanta in August.
And I think what's so cool about this whole expansion thing is, to go along with what Danielle was saying, it was always to meet a need. It was never us sitting down and being like, what's the next big thing? What's the next greatest thing? It's just goes to show how widespread the need is, and the want to participate in something is like this. I think every year we're shocked by how many script submissions we get. And so it's kind of wild. We know that there's like this untapped or untouched group of talent that doesn't really have a platform. But when you see how expansive and how deep that actually goes, it is very, very cool. And so we always are trying to find ways to just bring more platforms to the people who want it, which has been really, really, really cool.
Yep.
Wow. The filling the need, that there is something to predicting what could be needed, but also there's something so nice about, hey, we could really use this and you're already doing this somewhere else. Can you do it over here? And then just filling that in, and people already knowing, especially, doing it 5 years, people know that there's like a system in place, that this isn't, even the first year when you did it, it's like, okay, we're going to try this out. Second year, okay, yeah, this is going pretty well. But when you get to 5 years and then you start expanding it, and then having the ability when the pandemic happens to transfer it digitally, that was very impressive.
Yeah, it was crazy. I would not want to do that again, but we made it happen. And the only way I can describe how we managed to make it happen last year was that it was a huge team effort. Mm-hmm. Everybody was so willing to drop everything and just adapt to the situation. And for context, for anyone who wasn't following us last year, our festival was supposed to run in June and July. So it was at the towards the beginning-ish of the shutdown, and it was before anybody else was really doing theater online. Everybody was just canceling everything. So we had literally no precedent on how to do this. We didn't know how much to sell tickets for. We didn't know that StreamYard existed. We didn't know, we barely had a YouTube account. There was no precedent for us to look at and say, okay, this is how we do a digital event. We just kind of went with our gut and went for it and hoped for the best. And it worked really, really well. We ended up having a lot of people buy tickets to every single show, all 16 shows in the festival, because all 16 shows together was sort of the price of a ticket to a Broadway show. And so we had a lot of people saying, it's my friend's birthday, it's our anniversary, and my wife loves Broadway, but there's no other shows happening right now. So we're just going to buy all the tickets to your shows. I think especially all of the artists that we had involved, the writers, the directors, the actors, were so good at adapting and taking their shows and making them work in a digital format. These were not just Zoom staged readings. These were real, creative, fully produced pieces that almost feel like they were meant for a screen. That's how well adapted they were. So this summer, actually, we're taking pretty much all of those same shows and hopefully, again, doing the same shows on stage. And I kind of have no idea what it's going to look like, because they seem to work so well digitally that I'm like, cool, how are you going to do that on stage? But that is how they were written originally, was to be on stage.
Slimbo is very excited about it all. He's like, what? We can have the same shows that were virtual on stage. Can't wait to see it. That also shows how resilient the theater community is, right? That you can have something that was written with this in mind. A stage play is different than something that's filmed at home. There's a different connection to it, and yet to be able to do that under pressure, to make it still phenomenal, really, really cool. And I'm glad that those same people now get to see that realized on a stage and really let it go full circle.
Yeah, it's, I think a lot of people, everybody learned a lot. I mean, you learn a lot every time you do a production of a show, but having to adapt it to in this really specific way for a specific audience, I think taught people a lot about their characters and their writing and how to make things really compelling. As you were sort of saying earlier, when you're physically in a theater having a present in-person experience, there's something really special about that. But when that is taken away and you have to do it digitally, you have to make your show so much more compelling to keep people's attention. So I'm really excited to see like how much bigger and even better these shows are this summer than they were 2 years ago when they submitted them to us.
So coming from the marketing, the fundraising, those type of point of views where things changed a lot, but also now you're back in the swing of things of hopefully, knock on wood, having things live in person again. Brenna, I'd love to hear from your point of view, kind of like what you've seen change, adapt, and then Eden, if you've noticed anything from the financial aspect that it was like easier, harder, middle ground of raising that type of money.
Yeah, so any kind of advertising marketing really kind of evolved into more of like digital production, where video, plays, producing them, doing a lot of the similar work that SheNYC was doing. And it goes to your earlier point, everyone just is so eager to create, and if the circumstances won't allow us to be in the theater, then we're going to find another way to do it. And I think that's really cool that it expands across not just our festival, but the industry as a whole. So it'll be really cool when everyone can come back. But they've been building some pretty amazing content in the shutdown. Yeah.
And for fundraising in general, I think this is the first year. It's unfortunate that this was the circumstance, but this was the first year that I think there was a larger discussion in our country about the fact that artists aren't really funded, and that this is a huge group of people. When Broadway shut down, people suddenly realized that those are jobs and those are things that people do. It's not just for fun, and those are careers. So I think that was really jarring, and so a lot of momentum was put towards COVID emergency funds, and which is amazing. And a lot of people were able to apply for things just to get food, even. Like it was really dire, and it still is dire. And so while those emergency funds have sort of started to disappear, I think now we've started seeing some really interesting and like exciting foundations that are being created and are really at the baby phase, that are new, that are there to support individual artists from now and into the future. Also, a lot of new arts funds specifically for artists of color, because those have not really existed before. There have been a very small handful. And so those are now out there, and which is really exciting. And also for the first time in a while, New York City's Department of Cultural Affairs is now really trying to find ways to support small arts organizations. Typically, they've supported really, really large ones like the Met, which we know how hard all of this has hit the Met. So you can only imagine how hard it's been for organizations that make less than $50K a year. So the Department of Cultural Affairs has started, again, for the first time in a long time, giving funding to smaller organizations that have maybe never received a grant before. So there's been really exciting change. It's now about, when there's kind of not a fire under our butts, are we going to continue that change and continue to support those artists moving forward? I want to believe it. It's just now about making sure we keep people accountable.
Really important points you brought up there. And this past summer, having a lot of understanding with the arts, but also this cultural awakening that has been going on for so long. And the fact that it did take the murder of George Floyd for people to finally wake up about Black Lives Matter and Black trans lives matter. And unfortunately, with the events that have happened recently that stop Asian hate, it's these moments and you think that you're making some progress in one way, and then these horrible things happen. And personally, the anti-Semitism seems to also be on a rise. And there's just so many aspects that it's important to be able to fulfill people's needs emotionally, financially, mentally. That like the arts really do help in so many ways, but also like we need to be able to live healthily and people to be able to leave their house and feel safe. Does anyone want to just talk about any reactions to the current events?
It was 30 minutes away from where I grew up. So it was, and it has hit a lot of my friends very personally. And it's, unfortunately, I wish I could say that I was surprised. We're in a society where those things, unfortunately, are not surprising anymore. And it's now just about, again, holding power to account. If it's on the smaller scales, we can do only so much. We can donate to so many places. We can volunteer at so many places, but ultimately we need like laws to change, and we need things to be put into effect that can actually create more access to people of color, give women more opportunities and equality, and also maybe don't make it so guns can be bought the day before when you're having a bad day.
Wouldn't that just be a crazy concept? Oh my goodness. Yeah, it starts on a human level, and it needs to also happen on a government level, right? That the racism is ingrained in so much of this society that we need to like have it start from like, hey, these are the laws that make such actions illegal, but also we need to watch the way that we talk to one another, and like microaggressions that you might not think are a big deal of making like a side comment, they do hurt. And I think it's important when we're having these like fun theater conversations to also talk about how important it is to really dig deep.
Well, and also on that, their theater is also made to make an impact. And like Danielle said, we have shows that talk about a lot of different things that women are experiencing, and that they're not always fun topics. So it's theater is also telling the stories of what's happening to real people.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Did anyone else want to jump in before I transition out of?
I would just add something I say all the time is that I think that arts and politics need to work together in order to make a better world. We can pass laws on paper and we can try to force people to abide by those laws, but they're not going to be happy about it unless we convince them that it's the right thing to do. And that's where art comes in. That's where TV and film and theater come in to convince people that, no, you should actually be acting this way instead of that way. So I think as theater artists, especially as filmmakers or TV makers, we have an obligation to keep that in mind with everything that we do.
Yep. Very, very well said. A lot of people see themselves in art, and especially like Eden's saying about the what have we been watching? What have we been doing during a pandemic? We've been watching Netflix and Hulu and all these things. I'm going to stop saying their names since I'm not, sponsored. You know how that is. But really, I mean, you're reading books, you're listening to podcasts, you're watching videos. These are artists. These are people who are making content, music, so many different aspects of theater and the arts are what's fulfilling our needs on a day-to-day basis right now when you are stuck inside and you can't really go outside. So it is, these are real jobs. These are real ways that people make an impact in our lives and deserve to be funded accordingly. And so it all just kind of ties together that it's important to make changes and also to respect artists, to respect BIPOC community. And I want to transition this into the Broadway Sinfonietta, which I think is doing some really beautiful work. Can y'all talk about that?
Yeah, so Macy Schmidt, who founded the Broadway Sinfonietta, she and I met via, actually right towards the beginning of the shutdown, we started having these like Zoom calls with a bunch of women in the industry. And so we both happened to be brought into these Zoom calls, and that's kind of how we met. Ironically, she actually was also a pianist in that Noteworthy concert, but I didn't really know her at that time. And she said that she has this idea. She wants to start an orchestra for all women, majority women of color, and provide people paid work opportunities. That's sort of the mission, provide women musicians with work opportunities. And she said she thought it should be a nonprofit. And so I was like, I have a nonprofit. And so the Broadway Sinfonietta was born. The first video launched in November. It honestly feels like a year and a half ago, but it was actually just a few months. And that got a lot of buzz. From there, one of our sponsors on that original video also was working on the Ratatouille TikTok musical. So the Sinfonietta ended up becoming the backing orchestra for the Ratatouille musical, which is where a lot of people heard about the orchestra. And now there's just a lot of like sort of ad hoc projects in the works coming up. None of which I think I'm really allowed to talk about yet, but it's all going to be very exciting. And it's the thing that's inspired me so much about SheNYC over the last year is how much money we've been able to give to artists since the shutdown happened. At a time when nobody was making any money, especially people in the theater industry, we were able to pay all of those musicians in the Sinfonietta. We raised over $7,000 to give out to our playwrights who were in the festival last year in our Tip the Writers program. So we got to pay people during this time, which is like the most amazing thing that anyone could have.
Yes. Pay the people for their work. I love that. It's so funny you should mention Macy at the video, because I was in Noteworthy. I was watching the video. I was like, wait, that's Macy Schmidt.
Oh, yeah.
It was so funny. I was like, oh, that's the same person. Okay, this is great. And it really like tied everything together. If y'all haven't seen that video, Saleha Pfeiffer is just musical godsend voice, stunning. Go watch it. It's on the SheNYC website as well, and the accompaniment. And also, I remember when the Ratatouille TikTok musical was going with the Actors Fund, I remember seeing people tweet about, like, I never thought that, and the orchestral numbers about a rat musical would make me so emotional.
Yeah, and a lot of people were commenting too. It wasn't super advertised that the Sinfonietta would be the orchestra behind Ratatouille.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't made into a big deal, but even so, people watching it were just noticing, like, you kind of do a double take, like you're like, oh, it's an orchestra, it's all women. And then you're like, wait, it's an orchestra of all women? And people were watching and tweeting like, oh my God, is that all women musicians? What is happening? So yeah, it caused a bit of a tweet storm that night.
So exciting. And it's really great when it can go from this word of mouth and also this like video where you can be like, this is why you should support us, but we'll take a step back, just like watch them perform, and then you're blown away.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure in the about 10 minutes that we have left that we actually really get down to where everyone can find y'all to donate, any words that you came into today wanting to make sure to get out there. Let's go, Eden, Danielle, Brenna in a circle.
I think Danielle will probably, and Brenna will reiterate this, but our website, SheNYCArts.org, you can go there. You can learn about our programs. Also, we didn't even get to say, like, CreateHER's free, which is our student program. So if you're a high school student listening to this and you're interested and you're a girl identifying or non-binary student, you can go online and apply. Like, we have a ton of stuff there. Just, you can look on our website.
I would say go to our website and sign up for our mailing list, and that's how you'll be the first person to know when opportunities come up. Yeah, our next performance will actually be our CreateHER Spring Student Showcase. CreateHER is a program for, like Eden said, high school students who identify as girls or non-binary, and they get divided into two groups. They can choose to be a playwright or a producer, and throughout the course of a semester, they get workshops and classes on how to do those two things. And I mean, like, really nitty-gritty details. Like, producers learn how to do out a budget and how to set up a ticketing platform and how to launch a marketing campaign. And the playwrights workshop a new 10-minute play from scratch and get feedback on it every week. They have to learn how to pitch their show to the producers. So it's a really cool program, and we have amazing guest speakers that come in and talk to the students. And sometimes I'm listening into the classes being like, I want to be a CreateHER student. This is cool. And at the end, their final project at the end of the semester is every playwright gets paired with a producer, and the producer produces a staged reading of the playwright's new play that they've just written over the course of the semester. So it ends with a stage reading performance with professional actors directed by a professional director. And the last 2 semesters now, we've had to do them digitally. That's probably what will happen this semester as well. Tickets will go on sale for that in April for the performance in May. And by on sale, I mean it's free, but there's a recommended donation if you want to support CreateHER and keep it free for kids. And right around the same time is when, as Eden said, applications will open up. So if you are interested in theater, you don't have to have any experience. All you have to have is an interest and willingness to work hard. You can sign up and you can apply, and hopefully you will get to spend a semester with us. And yeah, keep your eyes open for our summer theater festivals this year in New York, LA, and Atlanta. We're going to have actually probably 18 shows this year across all 3 cities. And we're about to announce them really, really soon. So if you're on our mailing list, you will see what the shows are. You'll get to get tickets. And I forgot, we also are doing another noteworthy concert in May, which will also be live streamed. We got a lovely grant to fund it, and we have to use up the grant by June 1st. So we're doing a digital version. That will be coming out. I believe our plan, the theme is sort of around generations of women, and how that relates to immigration. And, you know, your grandparents come here, then they have your parents here, and then you grow up here with your culture. That's sort of the theme. So tickets are supposed to go on sale on Mother's Day to fit with the theme. All of it's on our website. That was a lot. I should have put that in bullet points or something. That's all I got.
Well, I will third the website for all of our information, but also on our website, it's great if you want to get in contact with us, because even if you're not necessarily a writer or a playwright with a script, we also have a big database of people who are interested in directing or acting or being a part of SheNYC in different ways. So it's always great to sign up and be a part of that group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, and as a 501c3 nonprofit, all your donations are tax deductible.
Yes.
Write it off on your taxes.
Exactly.
Danielle's
This is tax
tagline.
season. Yeah. It's a good tagline to have. People should know. Yes, and I'm very excited about this noteworthy digital concert coming up. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm Brazilian, Egyptian, Italian, American Jew. I have all of these backgrounds. My grandma's from Egypt, my mom's from Brazil, heritage in Israel and Italy, and it's always really interesting hearing these stories of the immigration and coming on a boat, and my mom having a green card and me being a dual citizen. I think it's so important to be able to pull from your heritage and hear other people's stories and be like, oh, that's so interesting. I'm not alone, which not feeling alone is always a great thing. And you are not alone. But also this is just going to be fabulous. So I will definitely be tuning in. I want to make sure also that people have the opportunity to follow you individually, because I think sometimes it's easy to be follow SheNYC for all the things, but also following individually on social media for what you're doing could be really great. So Brenna, do you want to share and then go around?
Well, you can find me. I'm on all of the platforms. So feel free to reach out. But yeah.
Where can they find you? What's your handle?
My handle, it's bkillpatty on Instagram.
Nice.
I'm also pretty bad at social media. I think because we have to do it so much for SheNYC, I'm
Fair.
I don't. But anyway, I'm I'm on Instagram and Twitter. Sorry, at Danielle.DeMatteo. And Clubhouse. Clubhouse is fun. Have you guys joined Clubhouse?
Yes.
I have so many invites for that, and I just haven't joined it yet. And people keep being like, "You should join." And sending me the link. I'm like, "Oh my god, okay, I will join." Thank you.
You should. You would really like it.
This is now a Clubhouse discussion. Perfect. Thank you. I will do that. Okay, and Eden.
If you just want to see pictures of my dogs, Instagram is @EdenHerLove. It's exclusively pictures of my dogs. But also follow theaters and nonprofits that you like. Please, that's really important for them.
Great points. Pets and theaters is really all my timeline is, and I'm very okay with that. Slimbo does make a very constant appearance on my social media, so y'all can find me at BWaySHO, that's BWAYSHO. And I also recently made a specific Instagram and Twitter for the podcast, BWaySHO Podcast, for all of your BWaySHO the podcast needs. Pew, pew, pew. So exciting. Yes. So all those things, I'll give you the quick rundown. So the show must go online continues throughout quarantine. Next week, we have some really great musicians, Alex Nolan in the orchestra, in the pit band, all those words, of Jagged Little Pill. Then we've got Sasha Hutchings, an original cast member of Hamilton, and also was recently in Oklahoma. Go check that out. Joey Contreras coming up. We have a lot of fun. So just stay tuned. BWaySHO.com. We'll have all of that. And then all the videos are right here on BWaySHO YouTube. If you just type in BWaySHO, you'll find it. So any final thoughts? I know we said anything else that you came into today and we spoke about CreateHER, but sometimes the world can feel so big and there's so many problems going on and there's so much that I feel like when you can connect with someone individually, all I want to say is like, I'm always happy if you are watching this or listening in the future and you think like, oh, I want to get involved, but I don't know how, like, I am always happy for you to reach out, like DM me. I think it's important to really show the community standing together. And like I said at the beginning of this interview, if I hadn't gone up after the SheNYC Arts conversation on the stage, I was so nervous. I just got these business cards and I was like, hey, I really like what you're doing. If you need a photographer or reporter, like, hey, and then we got in touch and then now we're here. So it just like, take those moments. There's never a small or big enough moment to really like, now is the time to seize the day. Bum, 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 ba-da-dum. So let's have Brenna, Eden, and then Danielle wrap up any final thoughts you have.
Yeah, I think going off of what you said, I really think that if you have something you want to do, I really think there's no better time to do it than now. As we've learned, if we learned anything from this last year, like, what is time anymore? So if you have a project, like, there are people out there, there are people that want to help, there are people that want to be a part of it, there are so many people that want to just be supportive. And I know the scariest thing is like putting yourself out there, but if you have that project, go do it.
Also going along with what you and Brenna mentioned, my first theater job was a teacher at my university, needed a bunch of dancers for a production, and I am not that. And so I just came up to him and was like, I'll just sweep the floor. I just kind of want to be around and see what you do. And I worked with him for 3 years after that as his stage manager. So it worked really well. And it was because I asked. And also the worst thing he could have said was no. And I would have just been like, okay, and just kept moving on. So I always ask. If people are, like Brenna and Shoshana said, are very willing to want to work with you.
This is my cat, Dora. She is a nightmare. She eats my hair, so that's what's happening right now. Yeah, I mean, seconding everything that everybody already said, if you have a weird special skill that you think you can contribute to SheNYC or any nonprofit, like, just offer it, because you never know what people need. When Shoshana came up to us at Women's Day on Broadway, we really needed a photographer, and it was perfect timing. And there are people ask me a lot about starting a nonprofit, an arts nonprofit. And after my own experience with starting an arts nonprofit, I usually say to people, don't start your own. There's already one out there that needs your help. So just go find it and just pitch yourself. And if you can work for free, if you're able to do that, offer to work for free just to get a little bit of experience in a community, because small arts organizations need that so bad. So definitely do those things. Oh, and if anybody's a bookkeeper, we always need one of those. So let me know. I've been saying that for like 5 years now and haven't gotten one. But one day somebody will be like, I'm a bookkeeper.
This is perfect. And also goes to show, if you want to be involved in theater and you were like, I am not creative, I am not theatrical, but I have a mind for business, or I'm very, financial oriented. Amazing. People need that. And I think it's really easy to think, oh, this nonprofit, this small theater, they only need people who can do X, Y, and Z. But it's like, they probably need you if you're not an X, Y, and Z, like the most, like you are a hot commodity. So it's just really good to, like, don't throw away your shot. Submit your name. And that is your last theater reference for this episode of The Show Must Go Online. We have to have at least 3 in everyone. It's like, tick, tick, tick. Okay, boom. Okay, that was 4. And that's what you have when you hire SHO. Just a lot of theater references and all that jazz. And on that note, I thank you so much for coming on the series. It was really, really great to chat with all 3 of you.
Thank you so much for having us. This was awesome.
Yay. And thank you all for watching at home and commenting if you're watching this in the future. Hello, future. I hope it's treating you well. And remember to head over to SheNYC's website. That's where you can find everything, donate, get involved, watch their videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the show.